This video is brought to you by America First Insight. Help support the growing conservative movement by becoming a member today. And if you want to support this channel, you can also use the code REAL when becoming a member. Thank you and enjoy the video. So as most of you guys probably know, I talked about this poll a couple days ago because it was such a massive ordeal, as we're not talking about some random pollster that no one ever heard about. No, we're talking about Atlas Intel, which for those that don't know, they were one of the most accurate pollsters in 2024. They did great. They got basically every poll correct, like spot on. They were off by like 0.1%. So yeah, they're pretty good most of the time. And they released a poll that showed President Trump's approval going down, and the generic ballot out of nowhere was like D+9. When every other pollster showing the same thing, including good pollsters like Rasmussen, like Big Data, like Insider Advantage, they all found the opposite thing. But the situation has gotten more pathetic as Atlas Intel, they have tripled down, and their explanation for this poll is just baffling. Now, before I continue with today's video, I need you guys to like and share this video right now. This is one of the best ways to support the content. It helps the video out of the algorithm, so like and share the video right now. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel, make sure to subscribe right now. It's another great way to support the content. But enough of the promotional stuff. We got to talk about this bombshell poll that dropped, which, if I'm being honest, no one's really talking about the poll itself anymore because, well, everyone kind of understands that something seems off with the poll, but whatever. That's not what people are worried about. It's more so how Atlas Intel responded, because in my opinion, the way they've handled this situation might be the most pathetic thing I've ever seen. Now, I want to clear up one thing. I'm not saying that Atlas Intel is now suddenly a terrible pollster. I'm not saying that. But the way they've responded to this poll and the criticism and the questions, I'm just baffled by it. I mean, you could have said a million different things, and somehow, every single response they made to this poll and the criticism, it's made it even worse. And now people are wondering, is this poll completely fake? Is it bullshit? Well, let's start with what Atlas Intel said about the poll itself and how they came to the conclusion, because everyone, including myself, we're baffled. We're baffled how they got this magical collapse of Trump, which, let's be honest here, Trump's approval in the month of April, it did go down. But the problem for Atlas Intel is this poll wasn't conducted in the middle of April. No, this is late May. And they're basically the only pollster to find that Trump's numbers got even worse. And their response from their CEO is pathetic. Let's read what it says. This lack of visible evidence that the policies are implemented and having a strong immediate impact in terms of bringing prosperity to the US, that's the most problematic thing for the administration today. Yeah. That's kind of the basis of this theory. This guy is claiming, the Atlas Intel CEO, he is saying that, well, Trump hasn't enacted his policies, it's not implemented yet, there's no evidence of it, and that's why his approval is going down. Huh? Wait, hold up, what? You're gonna tell me with a straight face that Trump's policies are not being implemented? I know the courts are playing games, but what? How do you come to that conclusion? The vast majority of people will tell you, yeah, Trump's done way more than I ever thought he would. He's doing a great job. That's what every other poll found. But Atlas Intel's the only one to say, oh, Trump's approval's going down because his policies are not being implemented. What are you talking about? He has signed the most executive orders in the first, 120 days of any president. And the media makes a big deal about every single thing he does. But there's no evidence of his policies being implemented? When every single time he signs any executive order, it doesn't matter what it is, all the mainstream media outlets, all of Twitter, they talk about it for days. You're gonna tell me that no one sees these policies? No. Listen, it's one thing if he said, okay, people are kind of disappointed about immigration. All right, that's one thing, because there are some people that are disappointed, including myself, but still, this doesn't explain why his approval's gone down by 9 points. That doesn't explain it. A couple points here and there, that's one thing, but every other poll, including Rasmussen, which you made fun of, which we'll get to in a second, they're finding Trump's approvals going back up to normal. Just April was a weird month with the tariff stuff, which he does bring up eventually, but this idea that it's because his approval's going down because his policies are not being implemented and there's no evidence. No. Trump promised to re-inaugurate an era of prosperity for the U.S. It was about MAGA now. For immigration, they did things very fast. There's no more crisis on the southern border. That's kind of solved. It's actually kind of a problem. It's solved to such a degree that nobody really talks about anymore. What? Huh? Wait, what? What are you talking about? So you're telling me it's actually a negative that he dealt with the issue of the southern border? But you just said 5 minutes ago that, oh, actually, there's no evidence of the policies being implemented. But now there's proof of it that you just demonstrated. When it comes to virtually everything else, particularly the economy and tariffs, we don't even know what the tariffs are. And I have a massive problem with this one because the tariff stuff was dealt with back in April. All right, that's why his approval went down. This excuse worked back then because no one knew what the hell was going on. Everyone was panicking. Everyone was worried about an economic crash, and it turns out it was all bullshit. So in April, his approval went down because of it. Yeah, that made sense back then. But in May, a month after the fact, when everyone, and even the same polls that had his numbers tanked by 10 points, even those same polls are now showing his approval on the economy is going up. Tariffs are announced, negotiations are announced, then you have courts challenging the tariffs. If you don't know what the tariffs are, it's even harder to know what the impact will be. I don't get what his point is. So, his approval went down by 5 points in a month because of tariffs? What, huh? When the average person right now does not care about tariffs anymore. Back in April, that was a big story. And even then, his approval, according to most polls, it was like a 5-point decrease. But a month after, when even YouGov, Yahoo News, these crappy pollsters, they all found Trump's approval is going back up. Not just in general, but even on the economy. His approval is going up. And Republicans are trusted way more in stuff like the economy, immigration. By some miracle, it's still hurting Trump? This excuse is bull. Like, I don't get what he's trying to say here. It's just confusing. Like, well, what are you talking about? This was dealt with back in April. This made sense back then, not in the middle of May. Especially when every other pollster found the complete opposite. If this was true, why does numbers go up like 10 points in a week? Or a couple weeks? Based on every other pollster. How? It's as if the average voter saw that the earth wasn't ending, the economy wasn't crashing, it was bullshit what the media was saying. And now nobody cares. The average person does not care about tariffs anymore. They don't. They did in April because they were told there was going to be 80% inflation, the economy was going to crash overnight, and it was bull. But the excuses are just stupid. So yeah, this explanation, it's dumb. This explanation is very stupid. It's just, listen, I'm not saying they faked it or whatever, but come on. You can use any type of excuse. You could have just said this was 1 month, it was a fluke. You could have said anything. But to explain that, oh, we're the only ones correct because there is this secret voter that no one knows about that hates tariffs so much they hate Trump now. But no other poll is finding this. And every other poll is showing Trump's approval is back up to what it was before the tariff stuff, basically. Huh? I don't get this. I really do not get what Atlas Intel is trying to do here. This reminds me of Ann Seltzer. Remember her? She was the same person, the best pollster in America, everyone claimed. She was the one that dropped Harris was going to win Iowa by 3 points, like a week before the election. That was a national story for a week, and it turns out it was bull. And her excuse was pathetic. She just said, oh, you know, I was wrong because Trump voters were enticed to vote more because of my poll. No, you were just wrong. This is what that reminds me of. I really don't get this explanation. The worst part is, this isn't just one shitty explanation and that's all he said. No, for the past week or so, he has been repeatedly bashing another pollster in Rasmussen Reports. Which, listen, I'm not saying Rasmussen's perfect or whatever, but to bash another pollster that you praised back in November, not just praised, claimed that they were the second most accurate pollster. That's what they said. Their own scorecard back in 24, they said Rasmussen Reports is the second most accurate pollster. Yeah, suddenly now, according to this guy, the CEO of Atlas Intel, actually Rasmussen is a garbage pollster. They're actually ranked 82nd. What? You're going to quote Nate Silver for this. Nate Silver sucks. He's incompetent. But you're going to cite him when your own daily tracker, your own scorecard, just 5 to 6 months ago, found that, yeah, Rasmussen Reports is like the second best pollster, at least 2024. But oh no, Nate Silver, his scorecard is like the gospel. It's perfect. This is stupid. And the worst part is, they're incredibly smug about it. This is the part that I think a lot of people have a big problem with. They're being smug about it. They're just saying every pollster sucks, including the ones that are good. And they're using the dumbest reasons possible. For example, just a couple days ago, the guys at Atlas Intel, they said that Rasmussen Reports was a bad pollster in 2024 when they praised them back in November, because for like 1 or 2 days in their tracker, they had Harris winning the popular vote for like 1 or 2 days or whatever for their daily tracker. Yeah, they're saying because for like 1 or 2 days, and for months, by the way, this wasn't a tracker that lasted 5 minutes. No, this went on for months. But for like 1 or 2 days or whatever, their daily tracker, their weight average, they had Harris up by a point. And they said, well, Atlas Intel never had Harris winning the popular vote. So you may want to look into that. What are you talking about? Yeah, they do a daily tracker. Yeah, some days it was weird where they had Harris up by a point. But it wasn't like Harris plus 17. They had Harris up by 1 point. Maybe 2. Their daily tracker was clearly showing a Trump victory, right? Their 3-day average or whatever, it was consistently a Trump lead. Every single day except like 1 or 2 days, and that's that. There were some days where they had some weird results, but that's what you can forget a daily tracker. Their weight average found Trump winning the entire time. But the funny part about this is not even a day ago did Atlas Intel have a miss. And I don't usually make fun of pollster for this because, you know, being off by 2 or 3 points, that's whatever. Every pollster, they have a margin of error of like 2 to 3 points, whatever. But Atlas Intel, they pulled the Polish race, and for most of their cycle, they had Nawrocki, I think that's how you say his name properly, winning. The more conservative candidate, they had him winning in basically every poll. But at the last second, they found, oh, the race is very close, but the other guy is going to actually win by 0.2%. And guess what happened? Nawrocki won by like 2 or 3 points. So they made fun of Rasmussen Reports not even 2 days ago for having Harris up by like 1 point for a day or whatever. But not even a day later, they have a poll that they were incorrect in. And they had Nawrocki winning basically the entire time until the last second. The same thing they allege Rasmussen Reports doing. You just can't make this up. I mean, listen, I'm not gonna, usually I don't make fun of a pollster for doing this because, again, it's margin of error, it's a small miss, whatever. But when you're so smug about it, and you're saying, oh, the Rasmussen Reports, they had Harris winning a couple days here and there in August or October, when every other day was Trump +2, +3, +4, every day their tracker was an average. And the next day, you're off. You actually did the same thing you allege Rasmussen Reports did. Wow. You can't make this up. You can't script it any better. I mean, this is stupid that we're even talking about this, but this is such a big pollster. This is a pollster that had a lot of credibility, and who knows, maybe they're right. Maybe they're the only ones finding this, but the more you look at this, the more it seems like they're just wrong here. And instead of just saying, you know, listen, it's 1 month, it's statistical noise, the margin of error exists, you know, it could go back up next month, we'll see. Instead of just saying that, they're like, nope, it's a guarantee my poll's right. Everyone else is wrong. No, it's a conspiracy. No, you all are garbage. And they're going to bash a good pollster like Rasmussen for nothing. We'll see what happens, but I don't get this. I really don't get the point of this bashing of Rasmussen or these other pollsters. Listen, Atlas Intel, if they're right, they're right. I'm not saying that they're faking their polls or whatever, but don't be so smug about it. The way they're acting is making it worse, and people are saying, okay, this is stupid. It's making people say to themselves, why should we trust these guys? Why? But anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.